Ooh. 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 Ooh, I like this. This is so cool. Oh, I'm gonna love freestyling to this. At some point. Not today though. This is such a good song. Thus far at least. Ah. Alright, alright. Alright, this is a great song. Amazing song. There's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna do. There's a lot of stuff that I wanna do. And this song just empowers it. Believe me, it couldn't, like, no song ever could exist that empowers my want to do so much in the series than this song that is currently playing. I mean, holy Lord. I mean, it's like the game's reading my emotions. It's like the game knows me. Ooh, that's right. We got the new Familia Royale. All right, folks. I'm gonna be real transparent with you because I'm a very transparent person. I want to play a dating sim. I want to play a dating sim. And I'm not kidding as well. I I want to play a dating sim. Now, let's call up some folks. Specifically, the true irregulars. All right, we have skill flow now, don't we? Skill flow. Okay, well, I'm not gonna. Yeah. All right, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Memoria. Of the Memoria Freese Y3. In which, yeah, I want to play a dating sim. I want to play a dating sim. Like, desperately. And let me explain why. So, oh god, okay, so yeah. Okay, this is gonna be a bit of a long story, so just a heads up, strap in. So folks, for recently, I have been wanting to play Hollow Knight. Or not recently, I have been playing Hollow Knight. If you don't know what Hollow Knight is, it's a series that I have, that I started on the channel years ago, and then I never finished. And it's basically this game, that's very, very ambient focused, and has really nice visuals. It's a platformer. It's, there's a bunch of little bosses here and there. It's a really good game. It's a really, really good game. You know, top 10, personally. Now, here's the thing. I have not played that game for 2 years. But now I'm starting to play it. Now for the past week or two, I've started to play it because, Lewis got on the PS4 for free. Which is like, dude, that's awesome. And so he started playing it, and then he's like, I don't understand. And so I'm like, I started playing it, and I'm like, dude, I'm so good at this game now. What the fuck happened in like the 2 minutes in like the 2 years that I was away from the game? And so I got good at the game. And then somewhere, somehow, some place, that makes sense. Somehow I came up with the beautiful and extravagantly impossible idea, to me at the time, to restart, not restart, but to, and hear me out, but to continue off of the long-awaited hiatus, that the long-awaited limbo y'all have been stuck in if y'all watched Hollow Knight or in this channel's early times. I plan to break it. I plan to break the hiatus and continue the series. And I thought it'd be very easy. Because since I was really good at the PS4 and, really good at the PS4 controller and all this, and, I could connect my PS4 controller to my computer, I'm like, dude, it's easy. I just need to go on Steam, look up Hollow Knight on Steam, hook up my controller, and just, start recording. Problem is, folks, my zero IQ self, not zero IQ, but a person, me, I don't know how, I think I might have deleted all my progress on Hollow Knight from the original series, from the original 22, 23 episode series. So that was devastating, but not really at the same time, because then that meant I got to replay through the entire game again. Not the entire game, but I got to replay through the parts of the game that I experienced before in the series on my own, and on top of that, would be able to get better at fighting and all this kind of stuff, and so I did that. So I did that for on and on and on, weeks, not weeks upon weeks, but I did it whenever I had free time. I would do like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hour sessions one morning, at a 5 hour session, just play Hollow Knight the entire goddamn morning. I bought everything from the shops, not everything, but, no, yeah, I bought everything from the shops up until you get to Green Path, and my destination, basically, was to get to the hunter. Not the hunter, but the huntress? The woman, the girl with the silk robe. Her. My plan was to get to her, because she was the last... Ooh. Edit save. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Did we actually beat this one? I don't think we did, but we'll keep on doing it anyway. So, my objective was to get to the Silk Robe Girl. And after so many deaths, after so much training here and there, after so many mishaps, after a lot of grinding, after a lot of exploration, after a lot of this and this, finally, today, myself, finally found the Silk Robe girl. So that was pretty cool. Now, I believe I was only able to do this through the sheer will and power of my brand new controller. Now let's step back for a second. I got back into Hollow Knight this year because we got it for free on the PS4. Now, like most PS4 users, I used a PS4 controller to play Hollow Knight on the PS4. And since I had the bright idea, hey, let me continue the series on my computer, only to find out that, hey, I have to restart from a different save file or whatever. I was then like, this is great, because now I can have more practice. And so, for that, since I was really comfortable with using the PlayStation 4 controller, I'm like, hey, why don't I just use the PlayStation 4 controller for Hollow Knight? So that's what I did. Problem is, folks, we only have 2 PlayStation 4 controllers. And there's basically this thing in my house where all of us use the PlayStation 4. There's no debate, we all use it. And there's some times where one of us can use it for too long and forget to charge the other. So usually what happens, right? We use one of the controllers, and then once it dies out, we recharge it, and then we unplug the other controller that was charging. And there's instances that's happened and that's failed and that this and that, but it's been going good recently, right? But here, my thing here is that I was using, to play Hollow Knight, one of the PS4 controllers, and as I was using it, it was slowly depleting in battery, which was bad because I played Hollow Knight with the PS4 controller at the same time as my mom and Lewis used the PS4 controller to watch movies. And so gradually both PS4 controllers decreased in battery life. And so this is a bit of a big problem for a while. And so me wanting to figure out a way to counter this, I thought, what if I found a personal controller of mine that I could use to play Hollow Knight on the computer? And so that's the next quest I went on. So first thing I wanted to see is, can my PS3 controller work? Because I have a PS3 controller from years and years back that I used to play Minecraft with. And it was super, super cool. I made a really cool world there, but I still have that PS3 controller, and I kept it because it's sort of like a relic. My point is that I wanted to check if I could use that PS3 controller to play Hollow Knight on my PC, on my computer. And it failed. So then I'm like, I have Switch controllers. Let me see if that can work. And so I checked my Switch controllers. I knew that my Joy-Cons couldn't work. I knew that my Joy-Cons couldn't work. I knew that my wireless Pro controller wouldn't work. But then I saw this one controller, and then I'm like, this could work. Now, folks, we're going to go back a little further than everything that I've just said, probably. And we're going to talk about this controller, the story of this controller that you're going to learn all about in a minute. A few years back, probably around the time that I started playing Hollow Knight on the channel, maybe even before Memoria Freese, but I highly doubt it, I wanted a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Because my cousin had a Nintendo Switch Pro controller, and I got really pissed off, because it's like I had my Joy-Cons, but I'm like, I want a Pro controller. I want to be a bit of a gamer, you know what I mean? I want to have more controllers, so then, I could play with more people, right? Understandable. So, me and my family went out, and we went out to buy a controller, a Pro controller, but not just any Pro controller, like a Pro controller for, with a design, a Zelda design, or a Mario design, a cool design. And so, we went to our local Best Buy, and we went to the Nintendo Switch aisle, and we found a controller. And it was a Zelda controller. It was black and goldy color, and it looked pretty pog, and so I'm like, alright, let's get it. So, we got it, and we got it in the hopes of it being a wireless controller. But we did not read the fine print. In fact, there was no fine print to be read. We didn't read the fat white text on the box saying that it was a wired controller. So I really screwed up there. So we got a wired controller. A wired Power A controller that had Zelda design. And so I was like, okay, that sucks. But I'll still use it. And I used it, and it was very uncomfortable to use because the cord was very, very short. Now, I'm pretty sure I only used that controller once. Never used it again. And here's my reason. A, because it was completely useless. B, because I ended up buying a wireless one anyway. That is now my really cool white Pro controller. And the most important fact of all, that I had lost the cable that made it wired. So now, flash forward a few days ago. I found this controller. I found the black and golden controller. And I'm like, yo, I could use this. This could have a use for once. Because, like I said, I haven't used it in ages. I haven't used it in centuries. I only used it once. And now it can actually be useful to me in my time of need. And so, I went ahead and I tried to plug it in to my computer. You know, because I had a bunch of cables that were similar to it. You know, I had a lot of similar cables. Because, you know, it basically used the same, it had the same, like, the same jack as, you know, a PS4 or like a, as like a PS4 and all that. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I can make this work. Except, I couldn't. And here is why. There's a really weird thing with this certain wired controller that I have. And not just this certain controller. There's a really weird thing with Power A controllers. Whether it was a thing of the past or the thing of a now. And it's basically, whenever you try to connect, or no, whenever you try to insert the little cable thing into the jack of the controller, it has to be a specific jack, or not a specific jack, but a specific shape surrounding the jack. And that specific shape is a rectangle with a hole cut through. Now here's the problem with that. There is only one of those that I have. And that one of those is lost to time. And so that meant that I couldn't use this controller because I didn't have the charger. I didn't have the proper charger. I didn't have the proper cable because none of the cables that I had that were the same jack had that line through it. And so this was the dilemma. This was the dilemma. I was so close. I had found the controller. I had the cables. I have multiple cables that could fit in there. But it was that single line. It was that single line that was preventing me from doing everything. And being able to solve the problem with, you know, using a battery life of the PS4 controller and, you know, just every problem ever. Just a single line. And you better believe this. You better believe me when I say that this frustrated the hell out of me. I was so pissed off because it's like, we're right there. Also, we should kind of... hold on. We should also just kind of use special art. Oh, we can't use special art? Oh, you can. Yeah, but it was just very triggering because we were right there. I was right there. We couldn't make it work. So I was rightfully just pissed. And I told my mom about this whole situation. And she's like, well, I mean, the only solution to this is probably having to buy another controller. So I'm like, that sucks. Because here's the thing. The one thing I forgot to mention happened in between... Oh, yeah. So, okay, so the part of the story that I forgot to mention that's connected to having to buy another controller goes back after we lost the wire, or the cable, to the wired controller. So, we had lost the wire. We were all pretty sad. We were rightly pissed. And so we were trying to come up with solutions. And one of the solutions that I had suggested was, hey, let's just buy another controller. But of course we didn't. That would cost like another, $25, $50 at best, or no, like $10 at best. But it's like we couldn't buy it. Like that's like we had just bought a wired controller, like, and we lost the cable. Like this sucks. This really sucks. And so that was the idea. That I had back then. My mom brought up the idea that I had suggested way back when, a few days ago. She's like, well, I guess we're just going to have to find another controller, or buy another controller from the same brand. And so, we did. We bought that other controller. Or no. We didn't buy the other controller. What we did is that we needed to buy another controller. But she said, you gotta find one that's cheap. You gotta find one that's like less than $15. And I'm like, alright, I got you. At this point, I was just feeling guilty. Because I didn't want to buy another controller just to get the cable. Because the thing that sucks about the cable is that the cable isn't sold separately. Because it's a specific cable, like I said, it's a specific cable that has that line through it. And it's just so frustrating. So, what I did was, also, my tea is getting hot. I just realized this. Ooh. Sorry, my tea is getting hot? What the hell? No, my tea is getting cold. All right. Sorry. Anyway, this was, no, not frustrating. So I was feeling a little ashamed, because it sucks. Because the cable that we needed isn't sold anywhere separately. And so I went on the hunt. To try to find a cheap controller. And by golly God, would you believe it? I found a $5 Power A Pokemon Nintendo Switch Pro controller. For $5 at a Walmart just 30 minutes away from the house. And I'm like, dude, what is this deal? I was very surprised. And so was my mom. Like, what the hell? It was below 15. It was cheap. And had the cable. And so that was the plan. The plan was to get that controller. But the problem is that we'd have to go to the Walmart because it wasn't available online. So the plan was to go to that Walmart, buy the controller, bring it home, and, well, use the cable to power the other controller so that I could play Hollow Knight with my personal controller. But unfortunately, that plan did not go through. Because on countless occasions, we completely forgot. We completely forgot. And neither of us wanted to go out and buy it. And so we time after time tried to ask Lewis, since he's out and about working around the country kind of thing. We decided we'd ask him to get it, because he's out and about all the day, around the clock, and so it's like, we'll ask him to get it. But every time we asked him to get it, he said, I was just there. And so it sucks. It sucked because we always missed it. We always missed our opportunity. And so, it was the other night. Actually, it was the other day. When I had looked at the listing to see if the controller was still available. So maybe he could get it today. Or tomorrow, from that standpoint. And it said on the website that there were only 7 more left. And I'm like, we gotta go now, we gotta go now. Like, there's no way, like, we gotta go now. And my mom's like, we'll just ask him to get it tomorrow. But I'm like, there's no way we're gonna be able to get that tomorrow, because it's probably gonna be gone by then. And so, I just sort of was depressed. Not depressed, but I was kind of sad that we weren't gonna be able to get that specific controller, that really cheap controller, because I didn't want to spend a lot of money. Because I just felt bad. You know what I mean? I always feel bad when we have to buy stuff that doesn't really, that we need to buy, but we don't need to buy at the same time. But I hate that sometimes we have to buy stuff that have a single thing that we need that doesn't sell separately. Anyway. So, the $5 controller idea didn't work. We couldn't get it. And so just like that, yesterday ended off pretty happily for me, because I watched my good old what do you call it? My Next Life of a Villainous. I watched a little bit of that. Oh, it's so good. It's so funny. It ended off pretty good. And my day yesterday ended off pretty good, right? But it was this morning. I thought all hope was lost, kind of thing. Well, I didn't really think that. I was sort of just sleeping. But still, this morning, I thought hope was all lost. I thought, we're not going to be able to get any controller. We're not going to remember. We're just going to keep on missing it, and it's going to suck, and everything's going to go out of sale. And I'm just going to start crying, and I'm just going to have to keep on using the PlayStation controllers, and it's going to dwindle in battery, and this and that. But then, saving grace, the ace of aces, then swept in and said, I'm not sure how this completely went, but all I know is that my mom came downstairs around lunchtime today. She was on the phone with Lewis, and she said that Lewis was at a Walmart looking for the controller. And so I'm like, oh, this is so pog. This is so great. So I'm like, there's a chance that we can get it. And so he's at the Walmart. It's not the same Walmart that has the $5 controller, which sucks, because that means we're going to have to end up buying a $25 controller or so. And so he finds a controller. We're seeing him through FaceTime. He shows us one of the controllers. It's just a purely black controller. And I'm like, that's great, but I kind of want a design. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want, like, if I'm gonna get a new controller, if I'm gonna get a new controller that's power A, then I'm gonna get a design. I'm not just gonna get a black. I'm just gonna get a black Pro controller. And so that's what we didn't do. We got that's what we did. We got a different. We got a cool thing. And so he showed us around. He showed us more of the controllers, and one of them caught my eye. It was called Afterglow. It was this really cool controller that it was sort of like glow in the dark, and it had like different modes and different settings, and it super cool. And it was wired as well. It was wired. Sure, it was $25, but it was wired. And I'm like, it's perfect. And it's for the Nintendo Switch, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. But here's the thing. It was perfect, right? It was perfect. I'm just like, we have it. We have the control. We can do everything now. So we celebrated. I thanked him. We ended the call. Me and my mom let a few minutes pass by when she then realized, but wait, are you sure that we got the same controller? Like the same brand? I'm like, yeah. You know, it's the same brand, you know, Nintendo Switch. You know, like, are you sure? And I'm like, wait, you don't mean Nintendo Switch, do you? She's like, no. And then I'm like, oh, you mean Power A. And so here's the fault in my star, folks. The fault in my star. I was so obsessed with the fact that I would be getting a controller for the Nintendo Switch use for that I could use to play Hollow Knight that was glow in the dark and all this shit, that I completely forgot that we were trying to get a controller that was under the Power A brand. And I completely forgot. It completely went over my head. I'm like, well, that fucking sucks. So, speeding up the process of the story, folks. Lewis came home 3 hours ago. Gave me the controller. It's super cool, by the way. It's super cool. We opened up the controller. It sadly was not Power A, but it was a new controller. And on top of that, it was a controller that was supposedly compatible with my PC. So I'm like, oh, I can play Hollow Knight, I can do this, I can do that. And in celebration, we were all having eggnog. It was such a great moment. But then, I realized that it'd take a lot more than just plugging the goddamn controller in the computer. So folks, let me tell you what happened next. For about an hour and a half, more like 45 minutes, for more than 45 minutes, I struggled to figure out why my new Nintendo Switch Pro controller was not responding, or why Hollow Knight was not responding to the movements of my controller, to me playing on my controller. Why couldn't it detect it? Why couldn't Steam? Why couldn't Hollow Knight detect it? And why could I only take screenshots? I was so confused. I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, how can I take screenshots, but I can't do this? And so I'm really frustrated, thinking that we just bought a $25 controller that looks badass as hell, but we can't use it. We can't use it. And I was just so frustrated, because it's like, we bought this thing, I'm supposed to replace another thing, but now it's not, and it's going to be in a... I was freaking out. And so, I struggled. And I struggled, and I struggled, and I struggled. I read through different forums. I read through news articles. I asked Google. I went to the communities. I tried to, tab shift when I logged into Hollow Knight and see if I could do controller configuration. It said it said it was disabled. It said all my controllers were disabled, that they couldn't work. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so I bring over to my PS4 controller, because it's like, at this point I was just really like, I don't know what to do right now. And so I sort of just took a deep breath, sat with my parents for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, get the PS4 controller. I'm gonna take out the Nintendo Switch controller that I just got. I'm gonna plug it in and see if it works. Lo and behold, it works. Here's the problem. I went to do controller configuration with the PS4 controller, and it didn't work. It didn't work. It said that this controller is not enabled, that this controller's settings is disabled. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't understand. I didn't understand it. And so I was just so confused. And so I decided, you know what? I'm gonna watch a video. I'm gonna watch a video to see if it explains to me what the hell to do. Didn't even have to watch the video, like the first frame, and I'm like, oh, that's what it meant by settings. So I go to my store page, I go to the top right, I realize, oh, it's open big picture. I punch in the codes and whatnot. I take out my PS4 controller. I lodge in my new Nintendo Switch controller, and there it is. I got it working. I got it working after 45 minutes. I got it working, and it was the greatest thing ever. There's sometimes that I forget that Steam has like different looks to it. It can be all like shoppyist, but it can also like have the format of a PS4. So I forgot about that. And so it was just very, very cool. So I had it working. I had everything working. And so then I went on to Hollow Knight. And sure, before I went on to Hollow Knight, I messed around with the settings. I tried to learn how the whole glowy thing works. Super great controller. Highly recommend it if you want a glow-in-the-dark Nintendo Switch controller. It's called Afterglow. Such a good controller. I mean, yeah, it's called Afterglow. It's such a good controller, dude. It's like you can change the different colors, and there's different modes. It's such a good controller. It's almost as good as the cat ear headphones that I had that, now don't really work anymore, but it's just so good. So, after a bit of fiddling around with the settings of the controller and whatnot, I finally got to playing Hollow Knight as I sat back with my parents in the living room as they watched House Flippers. So, yeah. So I played some Hollow Knight for not even that long of a time. And then I did it. I found it. I found the Silk Robe Lady. And it was all because of this controller. And it's like, that's what I believe. And so now this controller is like just the god controller. It's the controller that gave me the luck. It was the controller that gave me the luck to find the Silk Robe Lady. So, now that I've told this whole story, now that I've told you about my journey with trying to get a controller and the wired controller and the history of the wired controller, and that I wanted to play Hollow Knight and that I wanted to revitalize it and this and that, you're probably wondering, what in the world does that have to do with a dating simulator? What in the world does that have... How in the world does that relate to you wanting to play a dating simulator? And my answer to that is very simple. Is very, very simple. Sure, it took me about 40 minutes just to, explain the story of a single controller that got me to the Silk Robe Lady. But it was because of the Silk Robe Lady that I found a dating simulator. So let me explain. I know that I found the Silk Robe Lady. I quit Hollow Knight, and I'm like, alright, next time I log on to Hollow Knight, we're rebooting the series. So I'm ready. I'm ready to start the series. I'm ready to continue the series. And so I log off of Hollow Knight on Steam. And, with some time to spare, just relaxing, just wanting to fiddle around, I checked the store on Steam. And I'm looking through the store on Steam, using the new Pro controller, and, I'm just fiddling around, seeing what's there. I was also looking through my games. And, I saw a lot of, I saw Finding Paradise, which was a really good game that I played on the channel a while back. I found Factorio. I found Life is Strange. A bunch of them. Especially this one game called Everlasting Summer. Now, Everlasting Summer isn't very important to the point of this story. But it is important because it is a dating simulator. Not the dating simulator that I want to play, but it is a dating simulator that I am planning to play over the break. I played it a few years ago, but I want to give it a replay because it's been a long time, and I'm gonna replay it for the channel. So just thought I should mention that. So found a bunch of games, and I saw that some of them were not controller compatible, that they were controller compatible, that they were half controller compatible, that they were keyboard compatible. And after a lot of this and that, I went to the store. I went to the Steam store, and I found a lot of good games. You know, I found some games. You know, some games are $30, all that kind of stuff. I even came across Stardew Valley, and I'm like, oh, dude, that was such a good game. I didn't finish it, but it was a good game. So I looked through, kept looking through, and then I found this game called Our Story. I'm like, huh, that looks cool. That seems interesting. And so I clicked on it. And I learned very quickly, without even having to watch the trailer, that it was a dating simulator. And not only was it a dating simulator, but it was a dating simulator with a somewhat interesting plot, according to the tags. And so, I took one good look at that, and I'm like, dude, I want to play that tonight. I want to play that right now. Thing is, that if I wanted to do that, I knew that I had to write the notes for episode 7 of season 3, which I had planned to review in this episode. But instead, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to do that tomorrow either. Because I mean, tomorrow's just going to be a goddamn mess. But what I decided to do instead is I decided to hang out with my family a little bit. You know, I decided to talk with them. And I decided to just chill with them, watch some house flippers. You know, just the normal stuff that you do with your family. You know, I helped my mom out with the clothes. You know, I listened to some music. You know, as you do. I talked about, you know, like how great the controller is with my mom. You know, I talked about, like how I'm really grateful, and we just talked. You know, we talked. I hung out with them. I brushed my teeth. I got ready for bed. Yeah, I got ready for bed. That's funny. And I just chilled out. And when I left my parents' room after I said goodnight to them, I said, alright, I'm gonna go back downstairs. And as I'm going back downstairs, you know, a single funny thought hit me. You know, I was kind of like stressing of if I'd be able to record, or not record, if I'd be able to review the episode, if I'd be able to write the notes with the current energy that I have. I was worried. I was stressing about it. So I'm like, oh, but if I don't do it now, then I'll never do it, and this and that. I was really stressing myself out, as I usually do. But then as I'm walking down the stairs, a funny thought hits my mind. I really want to play a dating simulator. And then I'm like, huh, that's funny. And then I rearrange the words and I say, I'm going to be honest. I really just want to play a dating simulator. And that made me laugh. And with those 5-6 words, I got my phone out opened up Mobizen, opened up Memoria Freese, and started recording with that exact line. And that's how this episode started. So that threw you for a loop, huh? I'm sure that probably threw you for a loop. This was a good episode. I liked this episode. This episode had a good plot. I like the plot of this episode. I can gladly say that I watched this episode for the plot. Anyway, so now that we're done with this episode, seriously, I'm gonna go play that dating simulator right now. Before I do that, I want to talk for a second, like I have been doing for the rest of the episode. So, tomorrow is going to be a very messy day, a stupidly messy day, and the reason is because tomorrow is the final day that I have of school before Thanksgiving break. And I don't know about you folks, but I don't want to have to do any work during Thanksgiving break, because I plan to record so much Genshin Impact, so much Hollow Knight. I plan to record stupidly long episodes of Memoria Freese. I want to be able to talk to friends. I want to be able to, you know, watch anime, hang out with my fam. I want to do so much. And I also want to sleep because, you know, sleeping is important too. So I want to be able to do so much, and I cannot let homework get in my way. And so tomorrow I have a stupid and an absolute enormous, an avalanche, if you could say, of homework that I either have due after the break or before the break. And so, folks, because of this, tomorrow I sadly will not be reviewing episode 7 or episode 8, which means once again I have missed the nail on reviewing shit. So that means that, but I have to make that sacrifice. I have to make that sacrifice, because if tomorrow I can accomplish everything, then that means we can have 10 days of infinite possibilities, all right? And so, tomorrow, most likely, probably just going to be doing leveling up multiple teams, 7 zone if it's available. Basically anything. Maybe heroic trials. All right. I'm gonna be doing either of those. But that's it. That's gonna be the final episode. Tomorrow is going to be the last very short episode. I'm assuming of for the next 10 days. Because after tomorrow's episode, folks, stuff is going to get crazy. Stuff is just going to get crazy in this. Alright, we're going to have review after review after review, after story, after event, after a possible event extravaganza. What? Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of stuff, folks. We're going to go on rants upon rants, stories upon stories. Get ready, folks, because stuff's about to get massive. In the next 10 or so episodes after next episode of Danjoni de Aomotomeru no wa mashigatiru daruka. Memoria Freese Y3, episodes 932, no, 30, yeah, 32 to 32, 40, whatever. Anyway, get ready for that, folks. But until then, this has been I, and I will see y'all on the other side.